The origins of the Cold War between 1941 and 1991 were marked by an escalating arms race between the United States and the Soviet Union, a competition that became one of the defining features of this prolonged period of tension. The arms race began in earnest in the aftermath of World War II, as both superpowers sought to establish and maintain military superiority, particularly through the development and stockpiling of nuclear weapons. The United States initially held a significant advantage in this race, having developed and deployed the first atomic bombs in 1945, which were used to bring World War II to a close with the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The Soviet Union, acutely aware of the power imbalance created by the American nuclear monopoly, was determined to catch up. In 1949, just 4 years after the end of the war, the Soviet Union successfully tested its own atomic bomb, known as First Lightning. This event marked the beginning of a nuclear arms race that would dominate the Cold War, as both nations sought to outpace each other in developing more advanced and powerful weapons. As the arms race intensified, both the United States and the Soviet Union expanded their nuclear arsenals at an alarming rate. The US tested the first hydrogen bomb, or thermonuclear bomb, in 1952, a weapon vastly more powerful than the atomic bombs used in Japan. The Soviet Union quickly followed suit, testing its own hydrogen bomb in 1953. This rapid proliferation of nuclear weapons led to a situation where both superpowers possessed the capability to destroy each other and the world many times over. The doctrine of mutually assured destruction, MAD, emerged from this reality, based on the idea that if either side launched a nuclear attack, the other would respond with equal or greater force, leading to total annihilation. This grim prospect, paradoxically, served as a deterrent, preventing either side from using these weapons outright. Despite the continuous build-up of nuclear stockpiles, there were moments when the possibility of easing tensions appeared on the horizon. One of the most notable of these came during the leadership of Nikita Khrushchev, who became the leader of the Soviet Union in 1953 after the death of Joseph Stalin. Khrushchev introduced the concept of peaceful coexistence, a policy that raised hopes for a potential thaw in Cold War relations. Unlike Stalin, who had maintained a deeply confrontational stance toward the West, Khrushchev suggested that the capitalist and communist systems could coexist without resorting to war. He proposed that the Soviet Union and the United States could compete economically and ideologically, rather than militarily, thereby reducing the risk of a catastrophic nuclear conflict. Khrushchev's advocacy for peaceful coexistence was a significant shift in Soviet rhetoric and opened the door to several diplomatic engagements with the West. The most notable of these was the Geneva Summit in 1955, where Khrushchev met with US President Dwight D. Eisenhower and other Western leaders. The summit, while not resulting in any concrete agreements, was symbolically important as it marked the first direct talks between the superpowers since the beginning of the Cold War. Khrushchev also visited the United States in 1959, further promoting the idea that peaceful competition was possible. However, the reality of the arms race continued to overshadow these diplomatic overtures. Despite Khrushchev's calls for peaceful coexistence, the Soviet Union continued to build up its nuclear arsenal, and the United States responded in kind. The Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962 starkly highlighted the dangers of the arms race, bringing the world to the brink of nuclear war. Although the crisis was ultimately resolved peacefully, it underscored the fragility of the situation and the ever-present risk of a nuclear confrontation. In the years that followed, both the United States and the Soviet Union made various attempts to limit the arms race through negotiations and treaties, such as the Strategic Arms Limitation Talks, SALT, in the 1970s. However, the basic dynamic of the Cold War remained unchanged, with both superpowers continuing to expand and modernize their nuclear arsenals as a means of maintaining their security and influence. The arms race was thus a central and terrifying aspect of the Cold War, driven by the mutual distrust and ideological rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union. While there were moments when the prospect of reducing tensions seemed possible, the relentless accumulation of nuclear weapons and the ever-present threat of their use defined the era. The arms race not only shaped the military strategies of both superpowers, but also cast a long shadow over global politics, culture, and society throughout the Cold War period.